YouTube, so figured I'd do another yo-yo review today. I just gotta get caught up on some of this stuff. This is the YoyoFactory Horizon. This one's actually mine. I bought this on the BST for pretty cheap because this wasn't... I've played these before because I have a store and, I go to Yo-Yo Club and friends who can let me try it out. I feel like the Horizon is very much a yo-yo. You either love it or you hate it. It's very polarizing in that way. So, anyway, before I give you my opinions on it and what camp I lie in, let's go through the specs. So this is the original YoyoFactory Horizon. This is not the Ultra version. So the diameter of this yo-yo is 58.98 millimeters. So the diameter is pretty huge. The width, however, is 42.64 millimeters, which is a little bit narrow comparatively to some other, I think 44 millimeters wide is really more of a standard. This is about 42.5 or 42.6, so a little less wide, but huge diameter. The gap width is 4.58 millimeters, and the weight is a hefty 67.6 grams. Comes with a size C CBC center track bearing, pretty standard, and the CBC 19mm slim pads. Now that's new. This one is used. It is heavily used. The rims were polished, and you can tell this thing has been beat to hell. Got some pretty significant damage on it. So I got it pretty cheap because I wanted one for comparison's sake and what have you, for future videos and what have you. I am not a fan of the YoyoFactory Horizon. I know, like I said, it has qualities that people like, and there are people that really like it. However, I am not one of those people. So, let's get into what I think about it. So, as far as the cup goes, it's kind of got one of those finger spin cups, and it's got this extra little ring in there for the finger spin dimple. I don't think this is the greatest yo-yo for finger spins. I actually have an easier time finger spinning on a shutter. Most people are, Horizon versus shutter. So here it is next to my shutter. As you can see, the diameter is much bigger than the shutter. However, the shutter is wider. So there's that. The Horizon also weighs a lot more than the shutter does. Like, you could just tell in your hands, the Horizon weighs more. I think it's more than a gram heavier than the shutter. And so it's got a big cup here for finger spins and your horizontal tricks and stuff like that. Thumb grind lip is not huge, but it's decent. I can get thumb grinds on this. It's not bad for that. The finish, kind of like all the YoyoFactories that they did in that $45 price range that came out in the 2013-ish time frame. I like the finish on this for grinds as far as that's concerned, and it's pretty intricate in there. The design in there is actually pretty good for grinds. So it's got a lot of qualities that people could like about it, and that it's a perfectly fine yo-yo in that respects. However, the Horizon's just not really my cup of tea. And let me explain to you why. So when you throw this thing, because it's a little bit narrow, but all the weight is pushed into the rims here, plus it's heavy, this thing feels heavy. I mean, you would talk about like this thing is super heavy. Now, it's also pretty stable as far as that's concerned, but I feel like because of its sort of more narrow diameter, it kind of just feels like you put two dinner plates together and screwed them together and put a ball bearing in it. This is a really big yo-yo, and it's got a lot of weight out here, and it's the design, while very unique and different, is not something that necessarily appeals in play to me, specifically. That being said, I know a lot of people really like the Horizon. I'm just not one of those people. But anyway, I've got a zip line on here. Let's throw it around a little bit, and I'll show you. I'll show you the how it grinds and how it finger spins and all that stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of how it finger spins, but it's Paul Kerbal can clearly do it very well. So who am I to judge? I suck, but at finger spins. But let's throw it around a little bit. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back. All right, so like I was saying, diameter's kind of narrow, so I miss a lot with this yo-yo. Um, it's also kind of a weird shape, so it's kind of strange, particularly if you've been throwing other yo-yos. That being said, it's mega stable. I know that was sort of one of the design ideas behind it, is stability and all the weight. I mean, for a yo-yo that's almost 68 grams, I don't know how it couldn't be stable. So, this thing is super stable, so that's good. And you kind of do whatever. It's very forgiving. The pads in this are a little too slim. It could use new pads. But, so my binds aren't as tight, but that's really just the pads that are in here right now. So, as far as grinds are concerned, grinds just fine. The shape really kind of lends itself to finger grinds. If you get your finger in there, it'll grind pretty well because of that design there, that little, step. So it grinds pretty well as far as that's concerned. Mine vibes like crazy because it's beat up, but that doesn't mean that they all do. I'm sure they're all the same level of smooth as most YoyoFactories, but this one's beat up. As far as thumb grinds are concerned, thumb grinds pretty well. Not the biggest thumb grind lip, but certainly doable. I'm not going to try to catch it on camera and look stupid, but finger grinds are good. Grinds a long time. Stays spinning a long time because of how heavy it is. Overall, not a bad yo-yo. I could definitely see, if your style is more attuned to horizontal and just stuff that needs to be very stable. I could see definitely how you could like this yo-yo a lot. Finger spins are difficult, in my opinion, on this yo-yo, just because the cup doesn't really have any way to sort of center what you're doing, or get what you're doing kind of locked in. So you really have to be good to finger spin this yo-yo, which I am not. But it's certainly doable, as Paul has shown us many, many a times in his videos. But if you catch the side there too, it'll finger spin pretty well on the sides. But the shape is interesting. It's kind of like a space ship or something like that. It's kind of neat. I'm sure this blue, I like this blue color. I'm sure this blue looked beautiful when it was new. But as you can see, mine's pretty beat up. You can see the dings and stuff. So mine vibes pretty hard. But that doesn't mean that it vibed at the start. It just means that sucker kissed the concrete a few times. Not by me. I bought it used. You can see it vibes. However, despite being, this is probably the most beat up yo-yo I've ever played with, or that I own. Despite being as beat up as it is, you can't really feel the vibe in the string. So it's, it's pretty durable as far as all that's concerned. I can't argue with that, I suppose. But anyway, let's throw it back on the desk to give you the final pros and cons, and that'll be that. Alright, guys, so we got it back here on the desk here. So, let's pull it apart before I pro and con it. So it takes kind of a longer axle than I had anticipated it taking, which is good. As you can see, standard, recessed pads here. I got to put different pads in this. These pads are too thin. I think this is one of those thin pads from One Drop, the Flow Groove. I think these are the thin ones that would go in the top decks. So need a little bit thicker pads for the YoyoFactory stuff. I stuck a one of the Boss Rampage, whatever the center track Boss bearing is from G Squared, whatever the center track looking one. I stuck one of those in there. It's super smooth, but it would come with a center track bearing. But I like the Boss ones. Pretty long axle. I think it's a 12mm axle. Engraving on the inside, which is kind of neat because it's sort of it's subtle because it's on the inside. I'm glad there isn't a bunch of crap in the cup, but it's on the inside there. So I kind of prefer that. I'm not a big engraving guy, so the fact that it's not overwhelming and on the outside is pretty good. The cup is kind of neat. It sort of shares some similarities to the G Squared Warthog in the cup, just with it being a big cup. The Warthog doesn't have a that like centered that cutout there, but big flat cup, or not flat. It's kind of big concave cup, kind of like the Warthog. Also kind of like the SF Yoyo's SF, kind of just the big cup there. So if you like the cups and you can finger spin the cups in those yo-yos, you'd probably be able to do that. I'm not the greatest at it, but I don't practice with this yo-yo very much, so that's probably why. But I'm sure if I got used to it and I practiced it more, I could do it more solidly. As far as pros are concerned, like I said, this thing is super stable. And because of the wide diameter, I'm sure it would be very. And I've seen Paul do some crazy horizontal stuff. It seems to be very stable and good for horizontal as well. I'm not that into horizontal. Not something I'm trying to work on. So I can't speak on that per se. But definitely is good for that. As far as cons are concerned, for as big as the diameter is, it's a little bit narrow comparatively. So if you're used to like playing a shutter, the horizon's kind of narrow as far as that's concerned. You definitely kind of feel it. At least I do. I feel like I miss stuff that I would hit more often than not. So maybe that's just me not being used to it because I don't play with it that much. But I feel like the narrow diameter it doesn't feel as narrow like when you're throwing it around, but like when you miss your trick because it's a little bit narrow, I feel like that's sort of a con. I don't like the way this one feels. I think it feels kind of weird just with how much rim weight it has and how big these cups are. So just like I said, it kind of feels like you screwed two dinner plates together. So not the biggest fan of that. It also is pretty heavy. I mean, we're talking like almost 68 grams here of yo-yo, all pushed to of super rim weighted yo-yo. So it's very like it plays heavy on the string. It's certainly a very a lot of people would say, oh, it's powerful, it's forceful, it's kind of heavy on the string, and it's not something that I'm super into as far as that's concerned, as far as weight distribution is concerned. It's pretty awkward to hold too. It's kind of it's big and like just kind of awkward to hold. It's like this V shape. It's like super V'd, and there's this little step in there. I don't know. Some people might call it an H, but it looks like a V to me. As far as all that's concerned, those are my opinions on the Horizon. I could definitely see how some people could like them, but I think I firmly sit on Team Shutter. I prefer the Shutter to the Horizon. Sorry, Paul Kerbal. I like Paul Kerbal's tricks, but I would not consider myself a member of Team Horizon. But anyway, guys, tell me down in the comments. Do you like the Horizon? Do you prefer it to the Shutter? Do you prefer it to other yo-yo factories? I actually kind of prefer a lot of the other yo-yo factories to both the Shutter and the Horizon. But that seems to be the one everybody compares it to. Horizon versus Shutter. So that's my review of the Horizon. Good if you like if you like heavy yo-yos that are super stable but maybe a little bit more narrow. That doesn't bother you. That would be great for you. But for me, just not my cup of tea. But, tell me what you think in the comments, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And cheers to you. And I'll see you next time. Coffee.